there, folks. Welcome to the channel. I'm glad you could make it. In today's episode, we are going to be making a salami that, quite honestly, I am blown away that we haven't made already. We are making the hard salami. Now, one of the questions that we get a lot is, what is the difference between the hard salami and the Genoa salami? Well, earlier in the show, we did have a chance to make the Genoa salami. I'll put a link to that video in the description box below. You can go back, check it out, and see how that particular salami is made. But you're going to see that there are some key differences in the production of the hard salami that gives it its unique texture and flavor, one of which is that the hard salami is cold smoked. Now, I'm not entirely sure what your smoking setup looks like, but the sponsor of today's video might have a thing or two to say about smoking meats. We'd like to thank Smokin-It Smokers for sponsoring this video, and I'm going to put a link to their website in the description box below. For those of you who have been with this channel for quite some time, you'll recognize the Smokin-It Smoker brand because we have been using them for over 8 years, and it's an absolutely incredible product. Not only do they have an entire line of both analog and digital smokers at virtually any price point, but their customer service is on point, which is something you don't really see very often today. Are you tired of the inconsistencies that your smoker is currently delivering? Not getting to temp on time, not holding the temp properly, not cooking your food the way you want it to cook? Check out Smokin-It Smokers. I'll put a link once again in the description box below. And for those of you that are curious, Smokin-It Smokers just completely revamped their catalog, and their brand new professional series smokers are available. These are incredible smokers, full-blown convection systems in these smokers that are not only going to cook your food a lot faster, but reduce or eliminate heat zones, which means you could load your smoker down. They also carry cold smoke generators, smoker dehydrators, rib racks, roast racks, bacon hooks, and sausage hanging bars. Check them out, link in the description box below. I had a chance to talk to the owner of Smokin-It Smokers, and he agreed to give away a model 3.5 professional series convection smoker. This is their brand new series of smokers, and you might actually be one of the first people to get one because I think they've only been available for a week or two by the time this episode airs. So how do you enter to win the drawing for this brand new model 3.5 Pro Series smoker? It's super simple. Start by smashing that subscribe button and that notification bell. While you're at it, give this video a thumbs up. Next, and most importantly, leave this video a comment and let me know what your current smoker situation looks like and why would you like to win a brand new model 3.5 professional series convection smoker from Smokin-It Smoker. One lucky comment will be selected at random in 2 weeks, and I hope that lucky comment is you, because let me tell you what, this is a game-changing smoker that will absolutely redefine the way you smoke meats. It's going to be incredible. Thank you, Smokin-It Smokers, for not only sponsoring this video, but for providing an epic product giveaway. Let's now make the hard salami. Let's start with the spices. We're going to begin with salt. You're going to see how simply seasoned this is. We've got some Instacure #2. I'm also going to be adding just a little dextrose. Dextrose is going to feed our starter culture. Dextrose is a monosaccharide sugar, perfect for fermentation. And we've got white pepper, and then we're going to finish up with some granulated garlic. One final ingredient, which is optional, is non-fat dry milk. You do not have to add this, but if you do, it is going to help with the texture of your sausage. All right, let's go ahead and set that to the side and look at our starter culture. I'm using Flavor of Italy for this salami. You could use whatever starter culture you have on hand. You don't have to go out and buy a special one. I like this one. It's very fast. It's pretty predictable. But if you have TSPX, if you have FLC, SM194, it doesn't matter. Use whichever one you have on hand. I'm going to be adding just a little bit of that starter culture to some distilled water because we want to wake up that bacteria. We want it nice and active by the time we add it to our meat. So shake the packet a couple times, make sure the powder is loose. Notice I've only cut the very tip of that packet. I'm going to pour that into my measuring spoon. I don't want to dip my measuring spoon into that packet because we don't want to contaminate, what's in that packet. So I'm putting roughly about a 1/4 teaspoon in about 2 tablespoons to 3 tablespoons of distilled water. But I will have a recipe link in the description box below that gives you all the information you need so that you can make the hard salami. This is going to rehydrate basically for about 30 minutes. That's going to give the bacteria time to wake up. And by the time we add it to the meat, it'll immediately start to do its job. As far as storage goes, you want to put this back into a sealed bag and keep it in your freezer.
Keep it in the freezer at all times, and that's going to give you the longest shelf life. All right, let's take a look at the casing. I'm going to be using a 76mm synthetic casing. You can use whatever size you want. If you do go bigger, your salami is going to have more flavor because it's going to take longer to dry. This particular size casing should take me roughly about 10 weeks to completion. Typically, you'll see it in a store at about 100mm, which will normally take anywhere between 3 to 3.5 months to finish. Whichever one you choose to go with, just know the bigger the salami casing, the longer it's going to take to dry. And there you have it. To prepare a synthetic casing, all we're going to do is remove it from the pouch and stick it in some lukewarm water for only about 5 to 10 minutes. Not that big a deal. We just want to soften it up a little bit. Okay, let's set that to the side and move on to the meat portion of the hard salami. I've already got it cut up and ready for the grinder, and this salami is going to be using pork fat, beef, and pork meat. Now, for this salami, we want about a 15% fat content. I am using fat from the back of the pig. This is the back fat. And this particular salami, unlike the Genoa salami, is going to be ground fine. We're going to grind everything on a 4.5mm plate. Let's get started. And there we go, absolutely beautiful grind. Your meat and fat should not feel greasy. It should feel very loose, just like that. And that is absolutely perfect. So let's move on to the next step, which is mixing. When you mix your salami meat, you want to make sure that it is very cold, under 34 degrees Fahrenheit. This not only ensures that you don't smear the fat, but it also maintains the fat particles so that you have really good fat to lean meat definition in your salami, which is always quite beautiful. At this point, we're going to add our starter culture. This is the one from the beginning of the video. It's been about 30 minutes rehydrating. And this is going to let that starter culture sort of get well incorporated into the meat. And then we're going to add our spices. Now, should you add your starter culture first, or should you add your spices first? Truth is, I've done it both ways, and it really doesn't matter. So once everything has been well incorporated, we're just going to give this a mix until it's nice and tacky. And so as far as processes go, this is a very similar process to sausage making. All right, nothing really has changed. The main difference between sausage making and salami making comes down to fermenting your meat and then drying your meat, which we'll cover in full detail here in a minute. We're going to be mixing this meat batter until it gets sticky. Now, it's a lot easier and faster in, an automatic mixer like this, but if you do it by hand, the results will be the same. When you grab a handful, it'll stick to the bottom of your hand, and at that point, you're done. It's very important to get a nice sticky batter because this is going to keep your sausage well bound together, and it's going to allow it to dry properly during that drying stage. So once more, very sticky batter, super important. Let's now stick this into its casing. I will recommend that you get a dedicated sausage stuffer when you make salami. It doesn't have to be expensive or elaborate. This is a 5-pound economical sausage stuffer, and it does the trick beautifully. The reason you want that is because you don't want to generate a whole lot of heat when you're making salami. This isn't a cooked sausage, it's a dried sausage, and just the slightest bit of heat can disrupt the fat content, which will dramatically affect the overall experience when you eat salami. So let's get that synthetic casing onto its horn. We're using a 1 1/4 stainless steel stuffing horn, and unlike regular sausage, this is kind of one of those differences. You really want to pack it in there nice and tight. All right, so I'm going to be putting a fair amount of pressure at the very end of that casing. And my goal here is to really pack my meat into that casing. We want it as tight as possible. If you stuff it too loose, you're going to end up with big problems later on down the road. You're going to end up with meat separation. You're going to end up with unwanted mold growth and oxidation. It's just problems that can be avoided at this stage. This is a stuffing horn cleaner that we're using to get the excess meat out of that stuffing horn. And whatever was left in the hopper, so you'll see right here, just a tiny little bit of meat is left in that hopper. What we're going to do is we're going to take that little bit of meat and wrap it in cling film because we are going to ferment our salami, and at some point we're going to need to test the pH. And I don't want to poke a hole in the giant chub that we have, with our pH meter. So we're just going to use this little sample piece to test the pH, and that way our chub is undisturbed. All right, so that's going to get wrapped up nice and tight. And in roughly 20 to 24 hours, give or take, we'll open that back up and test the pH. All right, so let's look at the salami itself. And this is where you get an opportunity to really tighten up your salami. I can't tell you how many emails that I get with people having issues that can be avoided literally at this stage. So you want to make sure that it is ultra tight. I cannot stress that enough. Give that a twist. That's going to compact that meat until it is very difficult to twist anymore, at which point you can go ahead and tie it off. Now, while I'm pinching the end, we're going to take some butcher's twine and wrap it as close to the base as we can. So this is going to ensure that we get a nice tight knot. Now, if you're doing this by yourself, it can be a little tricky, but just watch what I'm doing right here. With my left hand, I'm going to grab that one string, and then with my right, I'm going to tighten it up. And you can just kind of alternate back and forth until you get it tied nice and tight. And there you have it. I am going to do a little bubble knot. This type of knot ensures that your salami stays hung nice and tight and it doesn't slip out of that string. So we're going to do another simple knot on that folded casing. That's going to create your bubble. And then do one more that basically gives you a double knot, at which point you can cut your string and your excess casing. If you do not already have a hang point, you want to create a hang point. Notice I already had one on the other side, and our salami is tied and ready to go. Now it's time to weigh our salami. This weight is going to basically let us know when it's finished. So you're going to record the actual weight, which is what we're looking at here. In this case, it's 1,066 grams. And we're going to have a target of 640 grams. That means we're going to try to lose 40% weight. A hard salami is going to lose typically more weight than a Genoa salami. So you could target 40% or 45%. It's really up to you. I'm going to target 40%. And now that everything is done, we want to make sure that we prick out any possible air pockets. Air pockets can lead to unwanted mold growth, and you definitely don't want that. So you're not only targeting air pockets, you're also just going to give your salami an overall prick. This is going to help that casing adhere to the meat just a little bit better. We aren't going to be using any mold on the salami because this is a smoked salami, and smoke will naturally inhibit mold growth. So there we go. And now it's time to ferment. So the starter culture that we used likes a fermentation temperature of 75 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit. It also likes really high humidity. And as long as we can accommodate both of those situations, we're going to have proper fermentation. Now, I did say that this was also a smoked sausage. So what we're going to do is we're going to ferment the sausage for about 12 hours, and then we're going to smoke it for the remainder of the period. That way we can kind of do it all at the same time. You don't have to do that, but that's the way we're going to be doing it. So let's cover this with cling film. That's going to satisfy the humidity portion of our requirement. That's going to keep all that humidity locked in. Easily we'll get 90-95% humidity. And because my kitchen temperature is about 75 Fahrenheit, I don't need to go anywhere with this salami. This is literally going to sit on my counter, undisturbed, for about 12 hours. After about 12 hours, now remember, we're still fermenting our salami, but now we're going to start cold smoking it as well. And when I talk about cold smoking, this is where sometimes people get a little confused. We are talking about smoking meats at basically room temperature. You do not want to exceed 85 Fahrenheit, 90 at the absolute max, okay? So cold smoking is smoking at temperatures under 90°F. Notice I'm adding a little bowl of water with a paper towel that has the edges lipped over the bowl. That's going to wick humidity during the cold smoking process, because you got to remember, we still need to maintain that high humidity because we are still fermenting our salami. Now, the temperature in the room that I'm cold smoking is roughly about 80 degrees, so it's a little bit hotter than my kitchen, but it's still well within my range. If you happen to live in a cold area, right? Let's say it's the winter time, you can ferment your salami to completion, then cold smoke your salami outside. That would be fine as well. Matter of fact, that's how it was originally done. So let's take the sample and the chub and place this into our Smokin-It smoker. Now, we're not going to be running the smoker. We're just going to be running a cold smoke generator. I do want to put that bowl of water directly under the salami. That's just going to ensure I got nice high humidity inside this chamber. And when it comes to the wood for smoking, you could use whatever you like. Oak is fairly popular. You could do a combination of oak and maybe pecan. It's really up to you. If you like that hickory flavor, you can use hickory wood. We're using Bella's cold smoke generator to add smoke into our chamber. This is by Smokin-It. This little unit can deliver 8, 10, 12 hours worth of smoke. And that's exactly what I'm looking for. I am going to go ahead and put my sample piece in this smoker because I want everything to ferment at the same time. That way it'll let me know when the bigger one is ready. And now that we have everything lined up, woo! The hard work is over, guys. We're almost there. Let's go ahead and close this smoker down and let the magic happen. Now, how long do you smoke your salami? Well, it really just depends on how smoky you want that final product to be. I think a minimum of 8 to 10 hours will give you a beautiful, smooth, smoky flavor, and that's exactly what I did, 8 to 10 hours. And remember, we're keeping the overall temperature under 85 Fahrenheit because we are cold smoking. Let's take a look at our sample piece. This is what we're going to be using to test the pH, and I'm going to show you a few things to look for so that you'll know your salami is fermenting properly. First and foremost, that color should be popping. It should be beautiful. It should be lively, nice, and red. Also, the texture of your sample should have completely changed. It should have almost a glossy, waxy type appearance. It should no longer feel like raw meat. Let's give it a smell. Lovely. It should smell sweet, slightly fermented, no off smells whatsoever. And this is where a pH meter comes in super handy because this pH meter is going to tell us everything we need to know. This is one from Apera Instruments. I highly recommend it. This takes the guesswork out of making salami. Now, we'll be giving one of these units away in a future episode, so be sure to subscribe if you're not already. We're trying to target a pH between 5.3 and 4.9, and notice I'm at 5.17. I am okay with that. I could let it go a little bit longer, but it's getting late and I don't want to be up all night. So we're going to take that chub out of the smoker and put it into its drying chamber. And at that point, the hard work is behind us. The next stage is where everything comes together. We're using a drying chamber from the sausage maker. This drying chamber is going to create an environment in which this salami will dry perfectly. So, do you need a drying chamber to make salami? Probably so. I guess it really just depends on where you live. If you have a basement or a cellar that stays pretty humid and relatively cool, then you can make salami in there. But if you don't, you probably need a drying chamber. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check this one out. Our target temperature is 55 Fahrenheit or 13 Celsius, and our target humidity is 75 to 80%. And so, like I said, a cellar, a basement, if you can meet those parameters, you can hang salami in there to dry. If you cannot, you probably need to put this in a dedicated drying chamber. And this is going to dry until you achieve your target weight loss, which in our case is about 40%. And just like I thought, this particular salami took roughly about 10 weeks to complete drying. Notice I've got one more project in there. All these things have come out at different times. And we're going to go ahead and take this salami, give it a cut, and see what it looks like. And I can tell you, this smells incredible. Looks like our casing adhered nicely. No problems there. And as far as weight loss goes, this is right at 40%. I want to say it's like 639 grams, the total weight right now. If you want it to be a little more firm, you can always leave it in there a little bit longer, target a 45% weight loss, and that really comes down to personal preference. All right, so let's go ahead and remove the casing, give it a little slice, and then give it a taste.
All right, folks, the hard salami. Let's come in for a closer look. Check that out. Absolutely gorgeous. Smells amazing. We've got a perfect bind. It's sliced paper thin. And a lot of folks ask, what's the difference between Genoa and hard? And hopefully through this video, you were able to see the difference. But the hard salami has a different ratio of meats and fats. It does not have wine, and it's cold smoked. The seasonings are still quite simple, much like the Genoa salami, but the flavor is totally different. So let's go ahead and give it a little taste. See what it's all about. I gotta tell you, I am super pleased with this recipe. I mean, we're getting all the basic flavors that a commercial hard salami has, but this is just better. I mean, it's fresher tasting. It has that artisan quality to it. The smoke is certainly a lot more present. And I love the smaller grind on the beef, pork, and pork fat. Because we ground it on a 4.5 millimeter plate, we're not getting that creaminess that we normally get from the Genoa because the fat is typically in larger pieces. We're getting a mouthfeel that is a little more on the firm side, which is exactly what we're after in a hard salami. Overall, this salami is amazing. If you choose to make it in a larger diameter format, like you would sometimes see at the supermarket, it is going to take maybe a month or so, maybe 6 weeks longer. But you got to remember that flavor is going to be exponentially developing. So if you go 100 millimeter, for instance, your salami is going to taste even better than the one that I had just now. I can't wait for you to try it. If you do, leave me a comment in the comment section below. And if you have any questions about this salami or the process, leave them in the comment section below. Now, don't forget, in today's episode, we are giving away a Smokin-It Smoker Professional Series Model 3.5. It's brand new to the marketplace. You may be the first to win one. And if you don't know the details on how to enter, it probably means you skipped over the ad at the beginning of this video. Head back over to the beginning, watch the first half of this video, enter to win. I hope you do, because this convection smoker is absolutely game changing. Thanks a lot for being here. If you like this video or got something out of it, a great big thumbs up is always helpful. And if you like smoking meats, if you like sausage or salami, you've come to the right place, because we do all of that. Hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. Tomorrow, we are going to be spinning the wheel of sausage. And I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.